As you saw, we picked Xavier Worthy from Texas, wide receiver. We're glad to add him on board. We think he's a heck of a football player, number one. He does a few different things. He's a good wide receiver and also a good special teams returner. And he'll end up doing both to start things off with. So, and he'll just work into that rotation when we get him, the wide receiver rotation, and with Hollywood and Rishi and Kels and the other folks. So it should give Pat another weapon there in which to use. Okay, all right. With that, time's yours.
Just with the trade up, can you kind of walk us through how that happened?
Yeah. So. We had marked this kid that Xavier, that we wanted him, and we just felt that you start getting down there, somebody might jump us, and pick him up. So, Brett does a great job with this. He's got a good feel for the people that have interest in that position and that player, and then where he needs to go to attack it.
He obviously met with combine time, but besides his speed, what else about his traits really stood out to you?
Yeah, good route runner, and he's not a big kid, or at least weight wise. He's got good height. He's just not very heavy. But I think you'll see this toughness that he's got, which jumped out at me. And then when you talk to their coach, Coach Sarkeesian and I are close, and he kept talking about how smart he was. He got great football instincts, and he's a tremendous worker. So, and in this offense, you've got to be able to do that and have those characteristics. So.
Coach, when you see the 40 times, it's hard not to think of Tyree, not to say that
Sure.
compared to one of the best players, but what does having that type of speed back in your offense do for what 2024 can bring?
Yeah, so, I mean, listen, they're different, and he'll put his own mark on things, once he gets a feel for it. That wasn't necessarily the comparison as much as it was him being a good football player that was a good wide receiver. I mean, now you add in there the return ability. I've had some guys like Tyreek and Deshaun Jackson, probably body typed a little bit more like Deshaun. Yeah.
Coach, how critical was it that you added to the wide receiver core this offseason?
Yeah, listen, I like the wide receivers we've got, but to add somebody of this quality, I think, is important, or a good move, to strengthen it. But I don't want to slight the guys that we have either. But he's a nice addition. I mean, he was. You guys know. I mean, you've read everything, so you know that people thought he was a quality player. For us to be able to get him down there with with the trade, I thought that was well worth it. Yeah. I like his makeup. I like the fact that he can go all day and that he loves football. And you guys kind of know how we're wired here. Brett makes that a real characteristic that he likes. Likewise, as coaches, we love that. And so you find that out about a guy, and you can tell he's passionate about the sport. I think you'll see this when you meet him, and he loves to play, and he's good at it.
Surprised the Bills answered the phone when you called?
I mean, I think everyone goes into the process, with their own list of priorities of what they want to do and what they want to accomplish, and every team, constructs their team a little bit differently, and I think they had a mindset of what they wanted to do, and obviously they've done a great job over the years, and they're a really good organization, so I'm sure it made sense to them. I think they ended up making another move there too, so we were on our own agenda, and we saw value there, and again, moving 38 spots for a guy that we think will be a great addition to our team, and especially with the special teams values that he adds, I think was something that we really factored in.
Obviously, you really liked him, you gave up your 3. What besides the 4.2 40 do you like about him?
Yeah, just our ability to play vertical and have speed on the field at all times, and having Xavier and Hollywood, I think, will make life easier for Travis and Reid. And I think, as the season goes on here, I think we'll have just an offense that can attack in multiple different ways and always keep defenses guessing.
Obviously, I know how teams defend you recently, but was it still a point of emphasis this offseason to be more successful in downfield passing?
Yeah. Listen, I think it's a quarterback lead and it's a speed game, and the more speed you have on the field, the harder it is for defenses to take away different elements of the game. And anytime you can add speed and add a guy with that type of versatility, I think you're going to be interested. And again, we have a couple guys now that I think can keep defenses guessing, and excited about what this will do in the inside game too, with Travis and Reid too. So I think we have a good thing going here, and got to get these guys into camp and up and running. But anytime you can add that kind of offensive firepower, 4.21 it's pretty legit speed there. And I think another thing too is when you look at these guys and some of their success in the NFL, we always look at how they transition into college. And Xavier was a guy that came in and put up big numbers right away as a freshman at Texas too. So just a really smart kid, can run all day, should be able to get up and running pretty fast. And as you guys know, and you guys have seen it, that there's a lot of verbiage and dialogue in this offense, and it's extremely complicated. But I think we felt really good just knowing how smart he is, and he'll projects to come in here and be able to grasp a lot of these concepts right away.
Brett, what do you feel like you learned about Xavier during the pre-draft process? I believe you got a member from at the combine.
Yeah, it's everything our scouts said. Just the kid that loves football, and he's coachable. Super. He's a smaller, slender guy, but he's super tough. We all know the value he has in the special teams game is big for us. But I heard Coach's press conference. He talked to Coach Sark and raved about him, and just how quickly he picks up things and how competitive he is, and work ethic, all those things that you look for. So you have a dynamic playmaker with top end vertical speed, smart, and you can move him around, do different things with him. So I think it was, from where we started, every step of the way, it just kind of validated the things that we thought all along.
As you get it back to the trade, you guys moved up 4 slots. When you were thinking about that and talking it over, which team or teams maybe were you worried about that were on Worthy?
Well, you don't know. That's the unknown, and when you get to that point, and then you're looking at, we moved down 38 spots, so we still maintain picks, and that's important throughout this process. And when you get to that point, and you're so close. You always second guess yourself, and you don't know. It's easy to say maybe he sat there and he would have been there, but we saw teams move consistently. Actually, after we picked, I think there was a couple moves. So you just don't know. And I think when you have a guy that you have a vision for and that you like, and you have a chance to do something, especially with a pick swap, it just made sense for us. So at the end of the day, we'll move down 38 spots, and we'll continue to navigate and work the board. And I think that one of the strengths of our staff is later in the draft, and so that's why we felt good about it.
Brett, with that position that you had there with wide receiver, was there any interest in another position if you got a little higher up in the board and you just kind of like where you were and the way the board settled?
Yeah, I think, wide out and tackle, and, D-line corner. Those, we kind of had a pretty good gauge that the tackles we like would be gone. We were holding out a little hope there that if one of those guys got in a window, we would have done something. And, the guys that we were really interested in, they went, and didn't really have an opportunity there, and we just kind of let the board play out, and then we saw a good value there to move down a couple spots, 38 spots, and then take Xavier. We just felt like it was the right move, and it made sense for us.
Brett, when you think about adding an offensive weapon, I know it's your decision and also coaches. How does it go? Do you ask Patrick, hey, what do you think about this guy? We're thinking about taking this guy in the draft.
We have a unique relationship with Pat, and so he, just by his competitive nature and just his professionalism and just wanting to absorb and know everything, he'll kind of call every now and then and just check in. And I mean, the thing about Pat, it's like, you know, when you go through the process here, you have some coaches that look for specific things, and you know they need a specific type of player. Then you have some coaches that you work with that they find the good in everybody. And Pat is kind of like that type of coach where, I mean, he sees the good traits in everyone. So he just talks about kind of the guys he's watching, you know, how he envisions them in our offense. And certainly Xavier was one of those guys and loved him. But you know, he had a lot of positive things to say about a lot of wideouts, but I know Xavier's right at the top of his list, and I'm sure he was at the top of a lot of teams' lists. And I mean, there were some really good wideouts that went early and shortly after there too. I mean, we liked all those guys, but I think for our offense and just clearing up the middle of the field, and then the return thing again was super important for us. So just made a lot of sense for us.
Right.
You and Coach have both mentioned his toughness, and he is a slight guy, like you said, like 165. Is that a weight that he's manageable to play with, or at this level of, you know, do you feel like he may need to add a little bit of bulk?
Yeah, I think he'll have to obviously continue to grow and get stronger, and you know, he's a young kid, and again, I think when those guys that can go from the high school level, or you know, right to University of Texas, and I mean, spit out almost 1,000 yards as a freshman. I mean, those guys typically can adapt and adjust quickly, but it's like anyone at any position that once you get to this level, there'll be a continual growth and maturation process. So certainly, you know, we're going to have him with our dietitian and our weight staff, and you know, we're not going to try to make him 200 pounds, but also, I mean, you know, keep him at that 175, 180 mark, I think will be a healthy weight for him. But it'll all make sense, and you know, like I said, all these guys are going to have to get bigger and stronger just for the marathon of the season, just to survive a whole, you know, hopefully 20 games.
Sorry, Brett,
Yeah.
this is the first time you drafted a receiver in the first round.
Mhm.
I just wonder, what was the sense in the room of actually accomplishing that and understanding that this was a unique year because there were so many worthy receivers available to maybe be taken in the first round?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just stick to our board and just take guys that we think can come in and play. I mean, we didn't enter today saying we have to have a wideout. I mean, we looked at our roster, and there's a lot of positions that made sense for us, whether it be O-line, corner, can never have enough defensive linemen, receiver. So, you know, it was one of those things where O-linemen went off the board quick, and, you know, we were, you know, looking in that direction. And then once the picks went on, and, you know, we had an opportunity to just make a pick flop and secure a guy that we thought can come in and just absorb the playbook right away, help us on special teams. You know, it made sense for us, but I don't think we came into the day saying we have to have a specific, you know, position. We just wanted to see if we can get a guy that we thought can come in and help us right away. And I mean, we've obviously had a lot of success, and you know, we're a veteran team, and you know, we need these guys to come in here and play and help us. And so just the ability that we felt that he could grasp the offense and come in right away, that I think was probably the motivating factor for us to just go ahead and make sure we got him before we got hot by potentially somebody else.
Well, like you mentioned, 421 really pops off. Just what did you think before that day, and just does that prompt you to go back and rewatch the film? Does it confirm what you already had seen? Just kind of that.
Well, I think everyone knew he was fast, and when we ran the time, I think we kind of thought, well, we're picking last in the draft, you know, might have a shot at him. And I think when he ran the 4.21, you know, there's a lot of speculation that when you run a time like that, sometimes those guys go even higher. And but certainly saw the speed on tape. I mean, that was one thing that was evident from the first time you put him in all throughout his career and playing at Texas. So sometimes those guys run those times, and you have to go back and to look for it to see it, because it's there, but only in spurts. But I mean, with Xavier, it wasn't a guy that, you know, that didn't. I thought probably everyone thought he was a 4.3 guy. So the 4.21 is something that is unique and special, and only made him more attractive.
Pete, you mentioned the communication with Patrick. What was his reaction to actually securing the player? You mentioned that he was unpopular.
I think it was at a gala night in New York. He called me and said, "Hey, you know, good luck. I'll be in this gala at New York, but I got my phone on." So he was, I think it was pretty quiet most of the night. I think right around pick 2021, he said, "Hey, how's it looking? You know, what are we thinking?" And you know, a few, I guess 30, 45 minutes later, I think when we actually confirmed the trade with the league before we turned it in, I shot him a text. I said, "I think we're going to be on the clock here soon," and told him to pick. So he was, you know, the thumbs up emoji, and was excited. And I'm sure they already touched base and talked already. So you know, he was a guy that obviously, you know, being from Texas, Pat, you know, knew all about, but he knows a lot about a lot of players, but he was certainly excited.
PJ? First wide receiver, first round, first offensive player in the first round in a few years now. Just moving ahead, is it kind of more centered towards shoring up that tackle position, or kind of looking back towards defense?
Well, I mean, listen, we'll just let the board play out, and like I said, I mean, we're going to need good players at a bunch of positions here, and we're always, I think, aware of the values of the O-line and the D-line needs. So certainly as we go on, hopefully the value and the need match, and that's what you always hope for when you get into these drafts and the off season. When they play out, you just hope that the kind of the need and the value match, but at the same time, again, there's other positions that we have to get better at, and other positions that we need to just continue to bring in competition. So any chance we have a player that we think can come in and play right away and help us, I think we'll defer to that. But I mean, again, I think we're always looking at O-line, D-line.
We'll go two more with Todd and then Jesse. Go, Todd. Was this the first time you guys tried to move up tonight, or had you tried to move up a little bit earlier?
Yeah, we had. I mean, listen, we had some dialogue for sure, but how the value and the charts work. I mean, our picks are, even our second, third round picks, they're not very attractive to teams, and they now that once you get into day 2 and day 3, it's a little bit easier to navigate. And day 1, it's hard, and you got to pay a premium, and the picks that you do have, they don't get you up very far. So we certainly made some calls. I think we started right around 21, 22, and there just wasn't a high desire for other teams' 2s and 3s are a lot more valuable than our 2s and 3s, and so it just doesn't do much for you. And then we didn't want to get into a situation where we were just packaging a bunch of picks. We wanted to just stay flexible throughout the course of the weekend and continue to add players and add depth to this roster. So we got we made some calls early on, and a couple teams just were not interested at all, and then a couple teams, the price was just way too high, and we just waited. And then we had a little window there with Xavier still on the board, start making some calls later then, like 29, 30. Yeah, Buffalo was at 28, so 27, 28. We started making calls right around then, 26 maybe. But we certainly had calls earlier, just never came close to getting anything done there.
Jesse?
Yeah, Brett, you said you had a vision for him. I just wondered what the long-term vision is for Xavier.
Well, I mean, look, he's a guy that I think we can do a lot for us, and we're super excited about Hollywood, and if there's a chance Hollywood can come in here and produce, we'd love to extend him. But the reality of it is he's only on a 1-year deal too, so the receiver market is going through the roof, and the guy in Detroit just got done. So I mean, whether it be tackle or D-line or receiver, I mean, these are expensive positions, and there's a premium on this league in speed and playmaking ability, and he has that. So I think the vision for him is, we have him for 5 years now, and that's a big deal for us. And as we try to keep this thing together and add pieces, those playmakers are hard to come by, and they're expensive in the offseason. So again, for this year, having him in Hollywood and Travis and Rasheed, I think it's going to be really exciting. But we also know that there's the additional factor that you have Rasheed under contract for Xavier under contract for 5 years, and so that's a big motivating factor, just the length of these contracts.